Here are the toilets, a collection of plastic buckets for over 650 people.
I can explain my feeling. I can control because of we are dying.
Behind towering walls and iron gates, a horrifying reality unfolds. A world where survival is a daily battle. Across Africa, prisons meant for rehabilitation have become chambers of despair, marked by overcrowding, disease, and unrelenting violence. In Nigeria's Kirikiri maximum prison, cells built for 20 now cram 60, forcing inmates to suffocate in their own misery. In Zimbabwe's Chikurubi maximum prison, over 17,000 souls fight for air, water, and sanity. Kenya's Kamiti maximum prison is a battlefield of gang wars and sodomy, while Black Beach Prison in Equatorial Guinea drowns its inmates in malnutrition and rat infestations. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kinshasa Penitentiary and Makala Central Prison redefine suffering, with inmates dying daily from hunger and brutality. Cameroon's Kondengui Central Prison and Malawi's MAA Prison are no better, overrun, unsanitary, and deadly. These are not prisons, they are death traps. Yet, for many, the worst punishment isn't the crime, it's being sent here. This is a grim journey into Africa's most notorious prisons, where every day is a fight to stay alive. Welcome to the world of research. Welcome to the large family of Wisdom in Narrations. Number 1. Kirikiri Maximum Prison, Nigeria. Kirikiri Maximum Prison stands as a stark symbol of Nigeria's broken penal system. Built in the 1950s with a capacity for 1,700 inmates, it now houses over 5,000. Cells originally designed for 20 now cram 50 to 60 people together, forcing prisoners to sleep in shifts, on bare floors or standing. The environment is suffocating. Poor ventilation breeds disease. Malaria, tuberculosis, and skin infections are rampant. Healthcare is virtually non-existent. Reports reveal that some inmates die waiting for medical attention. The mortality rate is staggering. Unofficial estimates suggest dozens die each month. Their deaths rarely investigated or acknowledged. Malnutrition plagues the prison. Meals are meager, often consisting of watery porridge or beans unfit for consumption. Food shortages force prisoners to rely on family support or bribes to guards for sustenance. Those without such support waste away in silence. The prison's notoriety extends beyond its conditions. Accounts of torture and abuse by guards are chilling. Human rights organizations have documented instances of beatings, prolonged isolation, and outright extortion. Prisoners are forced to pay for privileges as basic as access to sunlight or a single bucket of water.
In the morning, the food they give us is not up to something. In the afternoon, we drink gari every time. Afternoon, night, gari. So even when we sleep, we don't have enough space to sleep. We're shocking ourselves. Like 25 and 90 people in a room. We're shocking ourselves together till morning.
Kirikiri's history is marked by scandals. In 2005, Amnesty International reported that over 70% of inmates were awaiting trial, some for over a decade. This systemic failure turns Kirikiri into a de facto holding facility for those presumed guilty without due process. In one high-profile case, Olusegun Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, described witnessing horrific abuses during a visit in the 1970s, a period when conditions were less dire than today. More recently, in 2016, a video leaked from within Kirikiri revealed images of malnourished inmates and filthy, overcrowded cells. The footage caused outrage but led to no significant reforms. Corruption and neglect have entrenched these conditions, making Kirikiri a near-death sentence for many. Among its inmates are political prisoners, petty criminals, and wrongfully accused individuals. Tales of injustice abound. In 2022, a man was released after spending 15 years awaiting trial for a theft he did not commit. He emerged frail, with no compensation or recognition for the years stolen from him. Kirikiri's horrors reflect a larger crisis in Nigeria's justice system. It is a place where hope is extinguished and survival becomes the only goal. The cries of those within its walls are a haunting reminder of a system in desperate need of reform.
I never seen a worse place like this before in my life.
Number 2. Antananarivo Prison, Madagascar. Antananarivo Prison, cells built for 10 people often house over 40, leaving prisoners with as little as 0.5 square meters of personal space.
Nights are the worst, when you have to lie on the floor like an animal.
Malnutrition affects nearly 70% of inmates, with rations often limited to 1 meal per day consisting of rice and water. Families of prisoners supply food to about 60%, leaving the remaining 40% reliant on the meager prison provisions or forced to endure hunger.
I never seen a worse place like this before in my life. No.
The prison's lack of sanitation has led to outbreaks of cholera, typhoid, and tuberculosis. In 2023 alone, over 150 inmates died from preventable diseases, with medical care virtually inaccessible for the majority of the population. There is only one medical professional assigned to serve the entire prison population, resulting in delayed or entirely absent treatment.
The hygienic conditions, intolerable. The inmates live among heaps of garbage.
Disease isn't the only threat. Violence claims additional lives, with reports indicating at least 30 deaths annually due to guard brutality, inmate clashes, and unsanitary living conditions. The mortality rate at Antananarivo Prison is estimated at 8% annually, far exceeding global averages for prison facilities. Corruption compounds these horrors. Bribes, often ranging between 50,000 to 100,000 ariary, $10 to $20 USD, are required for access to basic necessities such as extra food, clean water, or medical attention. Those unable to pay endure worsening conditions, creating a system of inequality among inmates. Despite repeated warnings from human rights organizations, Antananarivo Prison remains a humanitarian disaster. The numbers reveal a harsh truth. Survival here is a fight against overwhelming odds, and justice is all but absent for those trapped within its walls. Number 3. Makala Central Prison, Democratic Republic of Congo. Makala Central Prison in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo, is a stark representation of a failed system. Imagine a prison designed to hold 1,500 inmates now confining over 15,000. The conditions are squalid, both horrible and unimaginable. That's 10 times its intended capacity. Overcrowding has turned the facility into a cauldron of despair, with prisoners packed into every available space.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, Makala Prison holds over 15,000 inmates, far exceeding its 1,500 capacity. Most are in pre-trial detention, creating inhumane conditions.
Life in Makala is defined by suffering. Reports of sexual violence are disturbingly common, with vulnerable inmates subjected to relentless abuse. Guards, often complicit or indifferent, wield power unchecked. Deadly force is frequently used to silence dissent, with protests over food shortages or mistreatment met with brutal crackdowns. Disease spreads rapidly within the overcrowded cells. Malnutrition weakens inmates, who are forced to survive on inadequate and sporadic rations. Families are often the only lifeline, providing food and basic necessities for those imprisoned. For others, hunger becomes a slow death sentence. Makala's grim reputation gained international attention during the 2017 mass prison break, when hundreds of inmates fled, highlighting the systemic failures within the facility. The response was swift and severe, with many escapees captured and executed without trial. Makala Central Prison is not merely overcrowded, it is a place of relentless torment. Its walls conceal a relentless cycle of violence, neglect, and death. For the thousands trapped inside, every day is a fight for survival, and every moment is a stark reminder of humanity's darkest failures. Number 4. Luaka Central Correctional Facility, Zambia. Deep within Zambia, Luaka Prison looms as a symbol of neglect and inhumanity. Built to house a single inmate per cell, it now crams up to 15 prisoners into spaces meant for one. Ventilation is almost non-existent, and the air inside reeks of decay, sweat, and sickness. The overcrowding fuels rampant disease. Tuberculosis spreads unchecked, claiming lives in silence. Prisoners suffer from chronic nasal congestion caused by the suffocating conditions. Rodent infestations further degrade the already dire environment, with rats scavenging among inmates for food scraps. Malnutrition weakens the body. Hopelessness destroys the mind. Guards at Lusaka are infamous for brutality. Prisoners recount harrowing tales of beatings, extortion, and degrading punishments. Survival often depends on bribing guards for basic necessities, a luxury many cannot afford. In 2018, Lusaka gained international attention when it housed condemned prisoners from the infamous Mapenzi massacre. The inhumane conditions faced by these inmates prompted calls for international intervention, but little changed. That same year, an outbreak of tuberculosis swept through the prison, killing over 30 inmates in less than 6 months. No reforms followed. Lusaka is not just a prison, it is a place of unrelenting suffering. Its walls conceal a harrowing truth about Zambia's justice system. With every passing day, the cries of its forgotten prisoners grow louder. The question remains, will anyone listen? Number 5. Chikurubi Maximum Prison, Zimbabwe.
Long he's got left to live. In Zimbabwe's prisons, any jail sentence can become a death sentence.
Chikurubi Maximum Prison, located in Zimbabwe, stands as a grim monument to inhumanity. Officially designed for far fewer inmates, it now confines over 17,000 souls in conditions that defy description. Within its walls, cells measuring 9 meters by 4 meters are crammed with up to 50 prisoners each. The suffocating congestion steals air and hope alike. Water is a rare commodity in Chikurubi. Inmates struggle to find clean drinking water, bathe, or even flush the overflowing toilets. Filth accumulates, breeding disease and despair. Without adequate health care, treatable conditions turn fatal. Malnutrition is rampant. Prisoners receive meals so sparse and poor in quality that starvation looms constantly. Brutality is a daily reality. Guards mete out savage punishments, often leaving prisoners maimed or dead. Mental health deteriorates rapidly under these conditions. Many inmates lose their sanity, locked away for days without sunlight or fresh air. Chikurubi's name became globally infamous during the 2015 hunger strike, where prisoners protested unbearable living conditions. Authorities responded with violent crackdowns, resulting in dozens of injuries and deaths. In the aftermath, no meaningful reforms were enacted.
Very, very horrific situation. It is bad. Believe me, it's bad. People are dying because of diseases and overcrowding.
This prison is not merely a detention facility, it is a factory of suffering. It reflects the failures of a broken system where the most vulnerable are forgotten, their humanity stripped away. Chikurubi Maximum Prison is a stark reminder of the urgent need for change, but the question remains, who will rise to demand it? Number 6. Kamiti Maximum Prison, Kenya.
Exclusive pictures show the bare floor where the inmates sleep. Only the privileged few have beddings. Everyone else, though, sleeps on the floor. Their belongings have to be hung precariously just above each prisoner off the ground.
Kamiti Maximum Prison, Kenya's largest and most notorious penitentiary, is a grim testament to human suffering. Originally built to detain a limited number of inmates, it now houses thousands, including political prisoners who often face relentless persecution. Violence defines life at Kamiti. Inmates are not only brutalized by guards but also by fellow prisoners. Beatings are a daily occurrence, and reports of convicts being killed by their peers remain alarmingly common. The lack of oversight creates a dangerous hierarchy where survival depends on strength and fear.
Kamiti Maximum Prison are home to more than 2,000 inmates serving different jail terms, most of whose cases are as a result of murder and robbery violence. Crimes some of the convicts never committed is the solid reason why they are behind these solid walls under the eagle eyes of the police.
The prison is rife with indignities. Sodomy is a horrifying reality, leaving countless victims traumatized and voiceless. Malnutrition weakens bodies, while outbreaks of cholera and ulcers wreak havoc on the population. Access to medical care is almost non-existent, and those who fall ill often succumb without treatment. Kamiti gained infamy during Kenya's post-independence era for detaining political dissidents, but the conditions remain unchanged. In 2021, international outrage followed the death of an inmate whose case revealed systemic violence and neglect. Despite promises of reform, Kamiti remains a place where justice is a distant dream. This prison is not just a facility, it is a harrowing reminder of the abuse and neglect within Kenya's correctional system.
Poverty and retrogressive legal measures have been cited as major factors that have contributed to many people serving jail terms they don't deserve. This comes even as the human rights wing continue to push for the abolishment of the death penalty.
Kamiti Maximum Prison holds not only its inmates, but also the unanswered cries for humanity and reform. Will its walls ever witness change? Number 7. Black Beach Prison, Equatorial Guinea. Perched on Bioko Island in Equatorial Guinea, Black Beach Prison is a name synonymous with despair and brutality. Renowned as one of Africa's most infamous prisons, it is a place where survival is a daily battle. Overcrowding defines this prison's grim reality. Cells meant for a handful of inmates are packed beyond capacity, forcing prisoners to sleep on floors teeming with filth and rodents. Rat infestations are common, spreading disease and further degrading the already inhumane conditions.
Women and children, you've got drug addicts, you've got mentally
so there's
ill
just
people.
Everyone in there.
If you've done wrong, and they don't want you, they
just put you there.
Yeah.
Malnutrition is a constant threat. Prisoners are subjected to inadequate and irregular meals, leaving them weakened and prone to chronic illnesses. Access to medical care is almost non-existent, and diseases like tuberculosis and malaria claim countless lives behind the prison's walls. Guard brutality adds another layer of horror. Beatings and torture are routine, often inflicted to intimidate and dehumanize inmates. Black Beach has earned a reputation for silencing political prisoners, dissidents, and anyone the regime deems a threat. Stories of prisoners vanishing without a trace serve as chilling warnings. Black Beach Prison is not merely a detention center, it is a chamber of suffering. Its reputation as a place of untold horrors is well earned, reflecting the systemic neglect and oppression within Equatorial Guinea. For those imprisoned here, the question is not if they will survive, but for how long. Number 8. Pollsmoor Prison, South Africa. Pollsmoor Prison in South Africa stands as a chilling emblem of lawlessness and despair. Known as the most notorious prison in the country, it is a place where violence and overcrowding define daily life.
Single cell, crammed with 86 detainees. It was designed for 19. They all share one shower and a toilet, but often it's just a bucket.
Designed to house 3,900 inmates, Pollsmoor now cages over 9,000, creating a pressure cooker of tension and conflict. Overcrowding has reached critical levels, forcing prisoners to sleep in shifts on the cold, damp floors. The lack of space breeds disease, malnutrition, and despair. Death is a frequent visitor, with the mortality rate climbing alarmingly high each year. Inside Pollsmoor, gangs reign supreme. Violent factions control every aspect of prison life, from access to food and water to the enforcement of brutal hierarchies. New arrivals are often subjected to gang initiations, leaving them broken and vulnerable. Guards, overwhelmed and under-resourced, are unable or unwilling to intervene. Pollsmoor's infamy grew when Nelson Mandela was detained here in 1982. While Mandela's story is one of eventual triumph, for most inmates, the narrative ends in suffering. Stories of stabbings, sexual violence, and extortion are common, reflecting a prison system on the brink of collapse.
He says Pollsmoor was designed during apartheid when prisons were meant to break black inmates, not rehabilitate them.
Pollsmoor Prison is not just a correctional facility, it is a microcosm of societal failure. Its overcrowded cells and gang-controlled corridors serve as stark reminders of the urgent need for reform in South Africa's justice system. But with the chaos inside, one must ask, is change even possible? Number 9. Kondengi Central Prison, Cameroon. Kondengi Central Prison, also known as Yaoundé Prison in Cameroon, is a grim symbol of overcrowding and neglect. Originally designed to house 1,500 inmates, it now crams over 9,000 people into its deteriorating facilities. The result is a crushing environment where survival is a daily battle.
Life is unbearable in this prison. Us prisoners, we call it the concentration camp. There are 1,300 prisoners, but only 3 toilets and 1 shower. Hygiene here is non-existent. People do what they have to do all over the place.
Overcrowding has reached catastrophic levels. Inmates are forced to sleep on floors, in hallways, and in any available corner, surrounded by filth. Poor sanitation exacerbates the misery, with overflowing latrines and unclean water spreading diseases like cholera and dysentery.
You have to pay to breathe. The food is revolting. In the morning, a 10-litre bucket of food is delivered to each cell. Each prisoner gets less than half a bowl of food. Some prisoners were punished for stealing or having forbidden possessions.
Food scarcity adds to the suffering. Inmates receive meager, nutritionally inadequate rations, leaving many malnourished. Those without families to bring food face constant hunger. The lack of medical care compounds the dire conditions. Treatable illnesses go unattended, and preventable deaths are a common occurrence. In 2019, Kondengi drew international attention when inmates staged a protest against the appalling conditions. The authorities responded with brutal force, injuring many and leaving others dead. Despite promises of reform, the situation remains unchanged. Kondengi Central Prison is not a place of rehabilitation. It is a human warehouse, rife with neglect and suffering. Its overcrowded cells and dire conditions serve as a stark reminder of systemic failure. For those trapped inside, the question of justice feels like a distant, unattainable dream. Number 10. MAA Prison in Lilongwe, Malawi. MAA Prison in Lilongwe is a harrowing example of systemic neglect. Built to accommodate 500 inmates, it now houses up to 1,500, turning its cramped cells into overcrowded spaces of despair. Overcrowding defines daily life. Inmates are forced to sleep in shifts, lying shoulder to shoulder on cold, damp floors. Poor sanitation worsens the misery, with overflowing toilets and contaminated water leading to frequent outbreaks of diseases like cholera and dysentery. Food is scarce and inadequate. Prisoners rely on a single meal a day, often consisting of little more than a handful of maize. Malnutrition is widespread, leaving inmates too weak to endure the harsh conditions. Medical care is nearly non-existent, minor illnesses go untreated, and preventable deaths occur regularly. MAA's overcrowding and neglect are compounded by a lack of resources and oversight. Many prisoners remain detained for years without trial, trapped in a system that denies them basic human rights.
When I was under death penalty, unimaginable happened. First time, there came a list of 21 prisoners to go for the hanging.
In 2015, a cholera outbreak swept through the prison, killing dozens and highlighting the appalling conditions to the world. Despite international calls for reform, the situation remains dire. MAA Prison is not just overcrowded, it is a place where hope diminishes daily. Its inhumane conditions reveal a justice system in need of urgent change. For those confined within its walls, the future feels as bleak as the present. According to you, which of the above prisons do you consider the worst, truly a hell on earth? Just write it in the comment section. Thanks for watching. I wish you better life, foods and money. Stay in the Big Wins family.